Justin Trudeau is banning foreigners from buying Canadian real estate. So is this going to make a massive difference to the housing market? The mainstream media, the realtors, the economists have been running wild with this story because they believe it is so important. Let's see what Justin is saying himself right now.
Has three key pillars. The first is helping people save to buy a home. The second is focusing on housing supply to make sure we're creating more homes across the country. And the third is putting an end to the speculation that is driving up housing prices unnecessarily in places like Hamilton and, quite frankly, right across the country.
And when he says putting an end to the speculation, he's talking about this foreign, in the context of this foreign buyer ban, which we're going to dig into the data, just isn't really a big proportion of what Canadian real estate sales. So we're going to go through that. It's quite interesting as well that he says, second thing is we're going to focus on supply. Because before you focus on supply, or before you even move into looking into supply, don't you need to look at demand? Don't you need to see if there's anything you can actually do about demand and see if there's any distortions in the demand? Nobody ever wants to talk about demand. It's all just focus on supply. But anyway, let's get right into what they're saying here. So Canada's ban on foreign home buyers comes into effect on Jan 1st. Here's what to know. Okay, as of January 1st, 2023, foreign commercial enterprises and people will be prohibited to buy residential properties in Canada for 2 years in an attempt to cool the speculation that helped propel the country's housing market to unprecedented highs over the past 3 years. They're basically just repeating what Trudeau said there. And, you know, the one thing that I really believe this is much ado about nothing. You're entitled to believe whatever you want about this. I know a lot of people seem to think that foreign buyers represent like 30% of the home buyer pool. And it's really not that. It's all to do with domestic investors, domestic speculators, because of the low interest rates that we've seen over the past, 10, 15 years. That is what has propelled the housing market to unprecedented heights. It's not the foreign home buyers that have done this. It is the reckless monetary policy. And part of the reason for that reckless monetary policy is the government themselves, because they have even admitted that they like low interest rates because it allows them to spend more money, to spend more into a deficit, to dig Canada further into its debt hole. And at some point, people have to pay the price for this. People think that there is zero consequences for all this. There is going to be consequences for all this. Look at the BRICS nations. They're all clubbing together to create a sound money reserve currency. Now that's quite a ways away, but I believe I'm going to see it in my lifetime. And the fact that they're positioning themselves in that way, the fact that they're sick and tired of Western countries just having these rock bottom interest rates and the rest of the world essentially paying for that, I think they're sick of it. And I think, it boils up to a point where eventually the pot boils over and, everything happens and it's going to be messy. But that's going to happen over a much longer period of time, like 10, 20 years I'm talking, not 5 years, not, even 10 years. It could be even longer than that. So anyways, through this legislation, we're taking action to ensure that housing is owned by Canadians for the benefit of everyone who lives in this country, said Housing Minister Ahmed Hussein in a press release. Anyone who's neither a Canadian citizen nor a permanent resident will not be able to purchase residential property in Canada as of January 1st for 2 years, according to this rule. The ban also includes non-Canadian company owners, which the regulations say will prevent them from avoiding the prohibition. Non-Canadians found in contravention of the ban will be fined up to $10,000 and may be ordered to sell the property, according to the legislation. So you have to think this through and really question whether they're going to have the means to actually enforce this. And I would say no, they're not. I mean, if you look at what's happening with Airbnb, and let's take Montreal, for example, 93.5% of Airbnbs in Montreal are unlicensed right now. So clearly, you know, Montreal's Airbnb regulations not being enforced, and Toronto's the same. It's over 50%. And whilst we're here, you're talking about this number right here, 13,621 listings in Montreal for Airbnb. So, you know, how much has this contributed to the demand that we've seen over the past couple of years? We know it's been huge, because when you look at the Airbnb inventory growth on AirDNA, which we've done in prior videos, you can see that this is growing rapidly, the Airbnb inventory. So this is a much bigger contribution factor towards the housing market growth than focusing on foreign home buyers, which is such a small percentage. And I believe that they're doing this on purpose, you know, and again, they could be, it is possible that they're being misled by the realtors and the CREA, which is the Canadian Real Estate Association. Obviously, they lobby the government, they supply a lot of the data, they have the monopoly on the data in Canada. So obviously, if they're saying it's a supply issue, does the government just then take that at face value? I doubt it. They probably commission these groups of bureaucrats that are getting paid over $100,000 to go and investigate the matter and just twiddle their thumbs, essentially. But yeah, they probably know that this is going to have little effect, and that's why they're doing it. It's all about political grandstanding and nothing about the actual foreign home buyer ban. Because think about it, if you put yourself in the shoes of a foreign home buyer, like with everything that's happened since 2018 and BC going towards foreign home buyers, like, you wouldn't want to invest in a country like that, like just based off sentiment of what the government is trying to achieve. If you're in a different country and you don't really know the politics and that it's all political and everything like that, you're just going to think, well, I'm just going to go somewhere else, because there's plenty of other countries that foreign home buyers can invest in. And especially right now, I mean, like Canada, the real estate bubble is known globally. We have global viewers on this channel. You know, a lot of people are aware of what's going on in Canada, and I think a lot of people outside of Canada have a better view because they're less biased than the people within Canada that are kind of, you know, all the propaganda and the realtors and everything like that. They kind of distort it to make it look better than it actually is. But just kind of crazy, really, when you think about it. So I want to play this clip as well from Freeland. And again, you'll just see, you know, how crazy this is.
And Canadians want us to act to end the financialization of housing. And I do want to say one more thing about supply, if I may. So there was a really good question a moment ago about how, you know, there are these new homes being built, new suburbs springing up, but the houses there don't seem to be less expensive. And we have these new suburbs, but the houses in older, beautiful neighborhoods like this one don't seem to be getting less expensive either. So what's going on and what can you do about it? And I just want to emphasize how important the supply side of this is. There are a lot of challenges with housing in Canada, and that's why our housing plan has a lot of different planks in it. But the most fundamental fact is our population is growing faster than our supply of housing. It's just a problem of numbers and of math. And as a country, we want to be a growing country. And it is great that we are a growing country. But in order to be a country that grows in a healthy, sustainable way, we just have to build more homes. And at its heart, that's what this plan is about.
I think this really shows how stupid they actually are, because it's just, again, she's like the same thing. Oh, let's just focus on supply. Let's not focus on demand. And she talks about immigration, which is utterly hilarious, to be honest with you. Because when you think about the immigration side of things, again, they just focus on immigration. She actually talks about the population to make it seem like it's more of a whole thing that she's looking at. But really, it's just immigration that they focus on. Because if you look in the past, like during the 1970s, because I've done this, where the population in Canada was growing actually at a faster rate than it is today. They were building less and housing prices were going down. So that pretty much just kiboshes her argument that it's just numbers, folks. The population is going up. We need to buy new homes. And this really shows you, because this is data from OECD. So it shows the percentage of vacant dwellings out of total dwelling stock, and it's 2020 data, or the latest available data that they could get. But you can see this really shows you that, for example, the United States has more vacant dwellings as a percentage of their housing stock than Canada. So does Australia. So does Ireland. And these aren't just trends that have just randomly started. I mean, Ireland and the United States also suffered a real estate collapse. And the vacant dwellings, a lot of the foreign home buyers are going to leave the homes vacant, and really they tend to just focus on condos. So by this metric, then you would expect that housing prices in the United States would be much higher if it was a foreign home buyer problem, but it's not. It's just simply not, and they're just focusing on this to make you look away from what's really going on, which is the fact it's a problem with supply. It's a problem with distortions of the banking system made by the government, CMHC insuring the mortgages. That creates distortions within the interest rates, because essentially it looks like the mortgages are low risk when they're actually not, and it's created these huge problems that are going to come to fruition over the next couple of years within the banking system. I mean, people who say that we have a rock solid banking system have clearly just done no research on it, and I would urge you to go and research on it. Go and do research on it, because it is quite alarming when you see the amount of loans that have been created, the fact that the government cannot afford to bail out all of these loans. So the banks are going to have to take some of the flack. They're going to have to take some of the heat when it comes down to it. And another thing, when it comes to demand, you've also got the fact that people use debt as a down payment. And if you go to this really shows, I mean, it just, again, pulls apart her argument completely. And it shows you 1 in 6 Ontario real estate owners have at least 2 homes. And I'm not saying I don't agree with this, by the way. I'm just simply stating what's going on and pulling apart what they're saying. We're trying to think this through. So nearly 1 in 6 Ontario homeowners have at least 2 homes. You can see the percentages go higher than 20%. I mean, people having second homes, isn't that more of a problem than focusing on foreign home buyers? That's if you're looking at it at the lens that they're supposedly trying to come across as they're looking it out, which is, we want to bring down the cost of housing for you because we're so amazing. Which is obviously not, and this is what I'm trying to describe to you. It's all just political grandstanding. Over 31,000 Toronto real estate owners have at least 4 homes. 1 in 6 BC real estate owners have multiple properties. BC residential real estate owners with at least 2 homes. And you can see, some places as high as 23.5%. Kelowna, 14%. This was one of the boom markets in 2021, and people just don't look at this thing. So obviously, It is not just a problem with immigration. It's not just a problem with foreign home buyers either. There is more going on. It's a much more complex situation than the government is making it out, which is, hey, we're just going to build more homes and that's going to fix the problem. And actually, if they do that going into this, then that's just gonna make things worse from the standpoint of housing prices going down, or better, depending on which side of the coin you're looking at, whether you think housing prices going down are a good thing or you think housing prices going down are a bad thing. But essentially, if they continue to build more homes, that's going to continue to create more supply. When supply isn't the problem, demand has already disappeared. Immigration has gone up over the past year, yet we've seen housing prices come down. So it's just like I don't understand how nobody just thinks these things through. But I've seen so many realtors, I've seen the mainstream media just peddling this story, and I didn't want to come out and do a video about it, but I felt like I had to, because people just aren't even thinking about the obvious things like we do on this channel. Just mind-boggling, isn't it? Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, you might like that one there. You might also like that one there. And I will see you guys in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.